Welcome to the Big Fat Gay Podcast, where we talk about the things that are weighing on our minds. It me, your super chub boy, Trevor. I'm here in West Hollywood, and I am I'm a lizard boy today because we have a lizard in our upstairs bathroom that just kind of is hanging out. And
actually, it's very BBC. We have an upstairs and a downstairs lizard.
Yes.
Well, hi, my name is Michael. I am a chaser, and I was a lizard boy yesterday because there was a lizard in our front yard, and I almost stepped on him.
Oh, no.
But I didn't, and he's safe, and now he's moved in with Trevor and Dan.
My name's Don. I'm a big chubby guy living here in sunny Hollywood, and today I am 100% lizard free.
Whoa.
That's
How
right.
did you do it?
Creams.
Wow. That's impressive.
Liberal application of various creams.
I admire that.
All the scales are gone. I'm Dan Oliverio, author, public speaker, and chubby chaser. And yes, I am the lizard keeper, apparently. And we try to keep them apart.
Lizard king!
And we try to keep them apart from the spiders because they both fight over the flies.
Boo.
No, they fight over the flies. It's terrible.
That's what I'm saying.
And we're joined by our mascot today. Has our mascot received a name yet?
Oh, I don't think so. Has he?
So this is a gift.
That is our mascot, not Trevor.
This is the little squeeze toy we received
Our
from
sumo centaur.
Our sumo centaur that we received at the Bigger Vegas live
Yes.
episode from one of our ardent and wonderful fans.
And he's fast becoming the podcast mascot, though we do need a name. So if you have a name suggestion.
I think we need a photo of him.
Maybe
on
like
What?
like the BFGPs are like
Biff Guppy.
Oh dear, no!
Anyway,
Please, listeners, rescue us.
welcome to the show. We are starting off strong with a mailbag. How about that?
Yeah.
And here we are. Mailbag time. Buckle up and unzip. Listener writes in. Oh, we have a name. Eric. Eric writes in. Hi, guys. Longtime listener here. I'm a couple of episodes behind right now, and I need to also catch up on the mini Patreon mini episodes. Well, feel free to do that, and there will be more coming out soon, so stay tuned. You may have already talked about this, but I figured I'd write in about it anyway. I was flipping through my latest issue of Out Magazine. That is impressive, by the way. Flipping through a physical copy of Out Magazine.
Do they still print those?
Apparently they do.
Amazing.
There are many magazines that are still printed.
Little known fact about me, I used to work for Here Media, which used to own and produce Out Magazine, and then they sold it off, and thank God they did. It seems to be doing much better now. And when he turned to the page and saw a feature on Dexter Mayfield, who you guys might remember as our very first interview on the Big Fat Gay Podcast, listener continues, it's the 30th anniversary issue, and they were recreating iconic cover photos from the past. Dexter is beautifully posed in a swimsuit on the 2-page feature. It's worth checking out. As a fellow chub, I got an instant boost of self-esteem seeing him represent.
That's great.
Just thought I'd bring it to your attention. If you hadn't already seen it, I can't find the link, blah, 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 blah. I can send the photo. Thank you so much, Eric. So we had seen this article, but I think you sent it like right at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had this on my little list. And it's funny because I read this letter, but it was still kind of during like COVID sickness. And I remember like reading it in bed and then later looking at the, cover recreation of Dexter for Out Magazine and being like, oh, this will tie in. There was the letter about something with Dexter and this will be a perfect thing to tie in. I'm like, oh no, it's the exact same thing.
Well, and it should be pointed out that Out Magazine used to do hot, sexy guy on the cover swimsuit.
Hot, sexy white guy.
Yeah, pretty
Typically.
much. And it's on the cover. And so they retired that practice, but they have brought it back. I don't know, just for Dexter, but he is recreating a cover that was featured in, I think, 2006.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think it's not only is it incredibly brave as there's a comment. So they have a comment section on Out, on the website, and I don't know how I feel about
to
that.
hear about that.
It's mostly spam. It's mostly
It really
unrelated.
is, yeah.
But there is a comment that wasn't negative. It was just they said, I feel like in as much as this should be viewed as a positive, he's opening himself up to a tremendous fat shaming.
Well, and Dexter's no stranger to that.
He's a big boy. figuratively speaking, he knows how to handle that sort of thing.
I mean, to be a big guy in this world, you need a thicker than average skin. To be a big celebrity guy that is known for using his body as a dancer and now exposing his body as a model.
Yeah, and
you have to have the thickest of skins.
And currently, and this is the juice, a judge on the CBS competition show Come Dance With Me.
Yes, Dexter
that's
is that judge, yeah.
Which, yes, so that is, I mean, we've just seen him skyrocket.
Yeah, I mean, from his debut as a model, as a runway model, and I think it was the Fendi.
Well, a dancer initially. And then when we talked about him, it was right after his famous runway catwalk, like viral amazingness.
And now he's on CBS, for Christ's sake. I love it.
Yeah.
I absolutely love it. And
we knew him when.
and I think comments like that, because it's not an insulting comment, it's a fear comment. And I think it's born of the, oh my God, I could never do that. And that's fair, but he's doing it, so it's possible.
I think there's also something to like, he's opening himself up to criticism, but like the fear of that, it is still fat phobia that they've internalized and are now externalizing. If you avoid that way of thinking, that kind of will shift, I feel like, overall perceptions, because it just shifts how you interact with the world, which shifts how other people think and then interact with the world.
Right. I think another way of saying it is like, make yourself you can set an example.
Yes.
Like, rather than saying the thing that is the fear of fat phobia, you can just say, this is really awesome. I'm glad he's doing it. And then now you're putting something positive out there rather than just voicing your own fat phobic concerns.
Right. But before you can do that, you actually have to recognize, oh, I'm having a cringe moment. Why is that?
Yeah. And
I'll be honest, like I see him on that cover. Now, the first thought that crosses my mind is like, I could never, My second thought is good for you. But
Right. But there's a huge difference between I could never and, oh my God, why is he doing that? Which is what a lot of people are thinking.
Okay. Yeah. It's sort of like, why isn't he just hiding in safety? But then you go, well, but because he shouldn't have to. And then, the comment underneath it is, oh, please, with a bunch of exclamation points. Not in reply to that guy, but just in reply to the article itself, which is, that's the kind of, but that's it. It's just the two comments.
And then a lot of stuff about
because everybody's reading Out Magazine in person, apparently, in the physical copy.
Well,
you can't. Do they write their comments in via like return mail?
Read it. I ruined it.
Do they get like comments in the mail that's like, my coworker's sister-in-law makes $85 an hour on the internet?
Oh my God, there's so much spam on that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember, like Out Magazine was mostly just pictures and like
advertisements,
ads, right?
It's a
So
lot of
why
ads.
would you go to it online? Like I
think
can
they're
get hotter
rebranding.
pictures.
Yeah, I think from my time working at Here Media, which I've talked about before on the podcast, not a good experience. Very toxic atmosphere. They owned originally the Out Magazine and the Advocate were independent publications, and then Here Media bought them back in like 2008, I believe.
Oh, they bought the Advocate too?
Yeah,
Yeah,
bought
'cause
the
they're-
Advocate and then ran it into the ground.
Right.
They destroyed it.
And now it's reborn.
Yeah, so then they sold all of their various media arms except for Here TV back a couple years ago. And so Out now has a chance to kind of like recreate itself. And I think this is part of that. I think they're trying to make it into something more influential in a positive way.
And if you're looking for the gay version of Newsweek, that's absolutely the Advocate.
And when they start back in the 90s, early 90s?
Oh yeah, it goes
Earlier,
way,
I
way
think.
back.
80s
way
maybe?
back.
It was
yeah.
80s or
Like
70s.
they are the original, like the OG gay publication, LGBTQIA plus.
Well, that was focused on news and events rather than, let's say international mail.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, yes. Anyway, so super, super awesome that Dexter is doing that. That he has the opportunities to do that, and then he's making the most of it. I mean, we're always rooting for him.
Go Dexter. Go Dexter.
Woo! What do we got next?
Oh, next.
On the docket.
Everybody crack your knuckles and get ready to... I think we all have some strong feelings about this.
I can do this. Hold on.
Oh my God.
Oh,
There we go.
It was disgusting.
It's happening, baby.
Well, so this is a piece from Collider that... Michael, did a listener send this in?
Yeah, a
or-
listener sent this to us, so thank you very much for that. We love that, by the way. I think we say this enough, but we really appreciate when you guys send us stuff. Sometimes we've seen it, but don't assume that. Maybe we haven't.
And it's called Stranger Things. let Hopper be fat. So,
Yeah.
spoilers for season 4 of Stranger Things.
Yeah, let's just start with that so we don't have to do a spoiler free. Maybe I'll do a hey, if you want to skip the Stranger Things discussion, if you haven't seen it yet, cut to XYZ time code, and then I'll put it in later. But yeah.
It's funny because when I was watching Stranger Things with Trevor on the couch right here, I had this reaction that then I found in print.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like somebody wrote down what I was thinking. And basically what it is that every time, and again, we're going to assume you've seen the show. So Hopper comes out of the Russian prison camp, and he doesn't look like he's been through a Russian prison camp. He looks like he's been on a weight loss program.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so he should look a hell of a lot worse having been through a Russian prison camp. But instead of commenting on how, oh my God, you've been in a Russian prison camp, everybody who meets him talks about, wow, you're ... smaller.
You've shrunk.
You've shrunk. They have all these euphemisms to acknowledge his weight loss.
Or somebody, or even I think when he meets Joyce for the first time, she's like, "Oh my God, and then he's like less or not fat. Not fat is his reply.
And it's interesting that the writers felt the need that in every scene that the characters acknowledge, not that he's been in a Russian prison camp, but that, wow, you lost weight.
The one that hit me the hardest, where I was beginning to lose my shit, was actually in the final episode.
Yes.
When he gets reunited with his daughter,
adopted daughter.
Earl.
Yeah.
And the first thing she says to him after thinking he's dead and seeing him resurrected is, "You're not fat."
Yeah.
And why?
Fart in the
I'm going to play
face.
I'm going to play devil's advocate for a second, because I agree with you. It was really disappointing, and it felt like such a missed opportunity for a meaningful line that would have made you tear up and feel like, oh my God, they're back to like. I could see maybe the direction they thought they were going, even if it was misguided, was that the character is struggling with their reaction and therefore
Goes to that.
settles on something mundane.
Yeah, but you do that once. You don't do it four times
totally.
with every
And
character.
as a writer, it doesn't work when everyone else has said that.
Exactly.
I mean,
Yeah.
I could understand why you would think it might work, but it doesn't.
It's no, it's certainly, and he even goes on correct me if I'm wrong, but doesn't Hopper actually have a mini monologue about how it was important for him to get fit and do doesn't that come
to
up
be
in
there
part
for
of,
her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When is this?
It's a very common monologue for any father character usually to give up smoking.
Yeah, because it's never about how I look for men.
No.
It's always, and I can bear this out from having done a lot of seminars. In private, men will say, "Oh, it's because I wanted to look better and get more dates." But in public, it will always be, "I wanted to be healthier."
yeah.
Okay,
I wanted to be there.
the hammering of this turned the reunion in the final episode. It was a fart in the face.
It
Which
was a
took-
total fart in the
What
face.
should have been like,
Yes. I could smell it.
Yeah.
I could, it just-
Such an
it hung in
amazing-
the air on my nose.
what should have been such an amazing thing into just fart,
Well,
farts out,
exactly, because it trivialized the whole experience of being in a Russian prison.
If anything, at the end of the series, I was like, they could open a weight loss spa themed like a Russian
Exactly.
prison, like a Stranger Things Russian prison.
Exactly right.
And they would make money
The
now.
benefits of Russian imprisonment, absolutely.
Yeah,
The benefits
running
of a work
away
camp.
from interdimensional monsters every day really makes the pounds melt away.
They really showcased it like that because no one is talking about the torture, no one's talking about the starvation, no one's talking about the frostbite, no one's talking about the blisters and the sores and wow, you look
Or the fact that he had to
unfat.
break his foot to escape.
Yes.
That just disappears in
And
favor
he's-
of, you're not fat anymore.
Right, he's not
And
even limping.
no one's horrified when they look at him, right?
Well, because
And
he shouldn't
if
look that good. He shouldn't look that good is the
Right,
thing.
exactly.
And by the way, David Harbour, in an
he's
interview-
amazing.
In an interview, he talks about this is one of the worst things I've ever done. It was, and he talks about he was already gained a lot of the weight back because, he had to do it suddenly for the show because he was playing a character who was in a Russian prison.
Yeah. I mean, he basically swore I'll never do this again, because it felt terrible.
Yeah. I had assumed originally that he had lost the weight to play the Marvel character in Black Widow, but which was also in a Russian prison. So he's spending a lot of time getting out of Russian
That
prisons.
man cannot stay out of Russian prison.
Being typecast.
Well, I mean,
But yeah,
we know from episode 1 that David Harbour's like natural place for his body is fatter.
In fact, I think we discussed him in our first episode.
Yes.
Yes.
That was,
That's what he means. Yeah.
I mean, this article is fucking fantastic though, because it, first of all, it pulls no punches. Like it gives them no leeway, which I think is appropriate because it is so repetitive over the course of the show. It's not just one time; it's like 5 times.
And what did they think they were gaining from this? That's what I don't get. Like, you were trying to play devil's advocate, Michael. What did the writers think they were gaining by? Was this like to lighten the mood of Russian prison camps? I mean,
No,
I was wondering if it was to make him a viable love interest for Winona Ryder.
because he wasn't before. He was the toast of the internet before
I
as a
know,
fat guy.
but
Yeah.
that's what I'm thinking. Is like as they move into a more physical relationship, they wanted him to be more presentational. I guess I don't know.
Well, that's going to be
honestly
hard
don't
since
know.
the actor's getting the weight back.
well, that's the thing is he has already done so, and usually Stranger Things has started with a time jump at the beginning of each season. I don't know if they're going to do that again because this one really leaves off with an immediacy cliffhanger. Like I don't think they can do that, and so I'm curious how they're going to handle him looking different from the end of season.
They're going
4.
to have him standing behind a lot of potted plants, and
wearing a lot
bowls
of
fruit.
vertical stripes.
Carrying pillows.
This is a really fantastic article. Definitely check it out. There's a lot more in there.
It's on Collider, you say?
It's on Collider.
And we'll have a link to it on our website, of course.
Of course. And David Harbour. I love that he's also aware of his dad bod hotness.
Yeah, he is.
Like,
And just in a sort of like, his attitude is like, well, it couldn't have been that wrong because a lot of people liked it.
right. And I think he recognizes that there's a degree of importance to that happening. Like to be represented that way. All right. I'm excited for this.
It's time.
It's time.
Is it?
I flash back to the live episode every time. I don't think we've explained this. For the people who weren't there, that eagle cry was so loud
Over speakers
in the room.
pointed at the audience.
To be fair, I've always thought it was too loud, but you know me.
It's always meant to be loud. It has to cut through all of those drums.
I just don't think anyone expected all of the glasses being worn in the first row to explode like that. Like,
So this week's Fat Watch is fantastic. I am so excited to talk about it. It's also incredibly dense. There is so much here. We have an article from Vox by Alex Hazlitt titled "How to Help Teens Have a Peaceful Relationship with Food."
And it's written as sort of a listicle. So like, it's like, do this, don't do that. Like it's very digestible.
It's very digestible, but the density of information is phenomenal.
There's a lot presented because it's a big topic.
It's a big topic, and I like how there's everything that is written is supported.
Yes.
But it's basically saying like when you are a young child, like preteen and tween, you are typically kind of at the whim of your caretaker, or if it's your parent or guardian or whoever, to feed you, right? And you eat what you're given more or less. But when you go into teenage years, you start making a lot of your own decisions, and that's where a lot of dysmorphias and eating disorders can develop when you start making your own decisions, and how you view your own body starts being reflected in your own habits. And it's basically an instruction for parents on how to approach it. And I think the fantastic start to this is inspect your own prejudices. Start with yourself.
That is the first point of like, call yourself on your own shit. Never mind your kids' stuff.
Yeah.
But your own stuff about what messages you're transmitting, how you relate to your body, the comments you make about your body when other people are around, like your kids.
Yeah.
like I'm very aware that like half of my bullshit is because of my mom's hatred of her own body and then turning around and projecting it on me.
Oh, absolutely. And maybe we have a lot of gay listeners who may not have kids, but you have nieces and nephews, you have your friends' kids, so they're out there. And plus, just other human beings.
Yeah.
There's no need to keep perpetuating that stuff, even if everybody in your life is over 21.
Yeah.
There's no reason to keep pushing that toxicity on other people just because it's you. I mean, just because it's your own stuff.
One of my favorite takeaways from this was and we've talked about this, but it really is crystallized perfectly, which is the all food fits model or approach to food and to feeding yourself. It's just the idea that everything works. everything works, and don't put food into the good and bad categories.
Yeah, so many diets have this like red light, yellow light, green light approach. Like Noom is very much red light, red, yellow, green light. And the problem is that kids and even a lot of adults develop this idea called, orthorexia, which is this fixation on the correct way of eating, even though no one agrees on what that is.
Yeah.
Even though no one agrees on the correct way of eating, everybody's got their correct way of eating. And people say, oh, well, I'm just, I'm cutting out X, Y, and Z foods because, quote, I want to be healthier. Like, who said that was healthier?
Yeah.
And so that it's not about like junk food bad, kale good. It's just about like food is not meant to accomplish health. Food is food.
Yeah.
And that's another point that's made in the article is like food is not in order to. Eating is not in order to. The food is not part 2 of your workout. It's just food, and you're supposed to enjoy it. It's supposed to be an enjoyable experience, and there's a lot of ways to enjoy food.
There was something I saw earlier this week, and I was trying to find the tweet, but it was someone just commenting on about how we see an unnatural amount of beautiful people now, and how it is just wrecking our brains. And I imagine it's so much worse for, teens, especially like with like TikTok and I feel so old saying like, and the TikTok.
This whole TikTok thing is.
Oh, that's that thing on the internet.
My goddaughter is 7, and she is thinking about her body in ways that I don't think a 7-year-old wouldn't have been aware of when I was growing up.
I mean, we were last November when we were up with Dan's family, his cousin has a daughter who's
about
7 or 8. And his cousin's wife is expressing concern about how she's already starting to talk about her body in a way that like her waist being smaller and stuff, and
comparing her waist with her friend's waist, and she and her friends, sit around and compare measurements of body parts. They're 7.
It's so, yeah.
And, the mom is, concerned about this.
And I'm using my poor goddaughter as the example, but like she's also projecting it outwards in a way that I can't imagine. Like, I was very concerned when I found out she saw a couple high school boys walking by, and she turns to her other 7-year-old friend and says like, "Ew, that one doesn't have a 6-pack. He has an 8-pack."
Oh my God.
Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, she's not even 8 yet. And
she knows that that's more valuable.
Well, she lives on TikTok, and apparently that's the currency there.
Oh, I don't think this is that friggin' new, especially for girls. I mean, I was a fat kid, and I remember back when I was like 10, maybe 12, I had this girl tell me in just the most sneering terms, like, "Oh my God, you're going to die of a heart attack."
Oh yeah.
Wow.
She's already thinking that at 10 or 12. And the other side of this too on TikTok is there is also starting to emerge, because we're in an age where everything one way is combated on the other side. There is emerging on TikTok and a lot of other places these things where people are saying, like making fun of, like I've seen these memes where it's like some hot young guy, really working hard at the gym, and the caption says, "My mom thinks I'm so healthy because I'm at the gym." And then it cuts to, a picture of like some raging party monster. She doesn't know I do 10,000 milligrams of caffeine when I go to the club. And it's all this stuff of like what that costs.
Yeah.
Because the models that are being worshiped on the internet, if you're being one of those models, and if you're aspiring to be one of those models and succeeding, the drugs and deprivation that is necessary to achieve that.
Yeah.
What kills me is the people who don't, are the people who are like, "Oh my God, look, he only has a 4-pack now. He's really let himself go." That ticks me the fuck off.
So I think really appropriate to this conversation is a listener sent in a TikTok from Rob McElhenney, who I guess kind of had more of a dad bod look for a while. I'm not too familiar with him. He's an actor. And then got incredibly ripped for a role. And everyone, I guess the tweet was, "Can you please, Rob McElhenney, can you please tell me how in the hell you got so ripped, putting us all to shame after that transformation?" And he responded to it. And he did I just want to play it for you. I can't say it or summarize
No, it's gorgeous.
it any better.
Play it.
Rob McElhenney, can you please tell me how in the hell you got so ripped, putting us all into shame after that transformation? Okay, I'm gonna break it down for you because it's actually quite simple. And anybody can do this. Anybody on the planet can do this. First things first, if you have a job, like a 9-to-5 job, quit that. Now, do you like food? Forget about that because you're never gonna enjoy anything you eat. Alcohol, sorry, that's out. So what you're gonna need to do is you have a chef, right? Like a personal chef. So make sure the chef makes you a lot of chicken breast and make sure you keep your caloric intake at a certain level. And as you go to your physician 2 to 3 times a week just to monitor all your testosterone levels, because testosterone is important to building muscle. You're good friends with the trainer from Magic Mike, right? Aaron Babayan. So you want to give Aaron a call and you want to make sure he's at your house and takes you to the gym at least twice a day because you're going to want to do your muscle building in the morning and then your cardio in the afternoon. Now, do you have a family, like a significant other or kids? Yeah, forget about them. You're not going to have time to deal with them. So that's really all you have to do. And make sure that you have said studio pay for the entire thing because it could become exceptionally expensive. So I think if you just do all of those things, then you too can have an absolutely unrealistic body type such as me.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, which is exactly what that other actor, remind me, Trevor, in that other article.
Yeah, from the live episode.
I think we talked about that on the live episode.
I forget his name.
This English actor who
Will
was
Poulter.
Will Poulter, who had to quote unquote get in shape because it's not that. It looks superhuman.
Yeah, I mean, whatever you think about Chris Pratt, and I know there are some controversies around him right now, you got to give him credit as being sort of the guy who led the way on this. Like when he was making his transformation into Star-Lord, he was posting a lot of stuff about how much it sucked.
Yeah,
and being pretty upfront about how much other people had to put into it. Now, can I get into my angry old man on the rocking chair on the porch for a second? Can I
get into?
Should I get off the lawn now?
You have no idea what you have unleashed. Okay, so
I have the power of the edit button.
I know every generation always complains about like the new thing and how it's going to ruin the world.
yeah.
So like when I was a kid, it was TV. Before that, it was books. No,
it's
for that, like these cave paintings are going to ruin the youth of tomorrow.
No, you don't know how right you are. There are diatribes in the 16th century.
No, I'm very aware,
about how books are going to ruin the world.
Yep. But like I look at TikTok, and TikTok is one of those things where I'm just like, this is not good. This is not a good thing for the future.
Well, the U.S. government agrees with you.
Well, yeah, but it's because it's I feel like every form of medium has cut away some more of the fat to our stories, right? So like, books, moving into movies, you lose a lot of what the book contained. Movies moving into a 1-hour format of a TV show can lose some of the stuff. Now, TikTok has figured out a way just to, here are some abs and a statement.
Go.
And done. And it's not the content itself. It's the unending every 15 seconds, another hot pair of abs telling you are not enough. The world is not good.
But I would say though that there is I don't know about an equal, but there is absolutely another current running counter to that, which is this shit is unattainable and it's stupid.
Right. That's true. But
on TikTok.
Keep in mind, I am not a TikToker, but I am a Facebooker. And the Reels thing on my Facebook, as I go past it, it's basically the softcore porn section of my Facebook feed.
I will see. My thing with TikTok is it's that, but it's the combination of it just keeps pumping it out towards you. Like you can't. Yeah. I just feel like I want it to stop. I just need a break. I just need to just give me a second.
I want to speak from the other side for a second here, which is that TikTok is what you make it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
It's you
will find what
TikTok
you look for.
is what glues itself around what you want to make.
No, but what I'm saying is it responds to what you put into it. So like I was on TikTok. I got off of it because I was spending too much time on it, but I was on it for a good month and a half, maybe a month. And like in that time, it immediately honed in on what I was interested in, which was ADHD and neurodivergent TikTok. And that's all I saw. Like that's the only content it put toward me,
Yeah.
and I loved it. It was great.
I'm not on TikTok, but I follow people who capture things from TikTok. And so I see a lot of postings by gainers and chasers of just the before pictures of these TikTok people who are like losing 100 pounds. I just see the before and it's just that glorified. And they just, they skip the part where they lose all the weight.
The after. Well, this is kind of leading. We were kind of already halfway through our main topic anyway.
It was a good transition point.
This is a good way to get into DALL-E, which
Yes.
Trevor so kindly brought to all of our attention.
This was fascinating. I'm glad you sent this
horrifying
out.
is also another
Yeah,
word I
but
would
not
use.
unexpected.
Not unexpected,
Okay.
but just visually horrifying.
So you have probably seen examples of this in your internet browsings if you are on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram. DALL-E is a AI visualizing, like it creates images. So this is from the DALL-E website because it's very kind of weird to explain. DALL-E 2 can create original realistic images and art from a text description. It can combine concepts, attributes, and styles. DALL-E 2 has learned the relationship between images and text used to describe them. It uses a process called diffusion, which starts with a pattern of random dots and gradually alters that pattern towards an image when it recognizes specific aspects of that image.
So it might be helpful to like have an example. So if you type in impressionist skiing panda, it will create an image of a skiing panda in the style of impressionism. Or photorealism if you type photorealism in. So, and what it's doing is it's reliant on what it's been fed, what it's been taught. And it hasn't been taught certain things deliberately. So like you can't put in a politician doing something that would be incriminating and then like try to
Right.
market it as real. And you can't ask for violent images because that's been put out. But it's interesting. So obviously the thing it knows the most about apparently is animals. So pandas and especially I should say chimpanzees are really well rendered. However, fat people, not so much. In fact, my favorite thing is like a lot of the fat people, if you ask for a fat person, they have no head.
Yeah, well, okay, so to be clear, so there's two different versions of this software available right now. There's DALL-E 2, which is in a closed beta, and then there's DALL-E Mini, which is what you have probably seen.
Which is obviously much less quality, lesser quality.
It's cruder, and both DALL-E 2 and DALL-E Mini will not generate faces for the specific reason of just concern about people generating misleading content.
But it's pulling from like the internet, essentially.
Yes.
It's pulling from links between text and pictures. And so you can imagine if you have somebody, trashing a fat person and saying all of these things about them, and then you type in a certain prompt, it's going to give you, for instance, the way we got into this was it was a listener, right? Who wrote
I don't know if it was a listener.
Or just
I don't remember
somebody
who it
you
was. It was
found.
someone I'm friends with on Facebook, Chubb Gainer, someone talking about using the software and how with DALL-E Mini, if they put in 400-pound man because they wanted to see what would happen because they were noticing that anything with fat was like amplified. So when they put in 400-pound man, the images it generated were closer to what someone who was 800 pounds would look like.
Well, and just distorted and grotesque, and like the clothes morph into the
I mean,
background.
the samples it's pulling from are images, labeled images on the internet, right?
Yeah, it's going by labels on the internet. Yeah.
Yeah. And this is, to be fair, this is DALL-E Mini. DALL-E 2 is supposedly a much higher quality render, but that is a closed beta. You can't get access to it, really.
Right.
So DALL-E Mini is what people have access to, and it is doing a very weird thing where it's basically, as Trevor put it, it is creating a visual representation of fat phobia.
Which is a brilliant way to say it. So if you want to know what does fat phobia look like, use DALL-E Mini.
Yeah.
And you can't say it's being made up because it's basically just a hybrid of all the images that you can find on the internet.
It's a mirror. It's a kind of mirror. It's reflecting what it sees.
Well, and what I really love is that the distortion and imprecision that exists around fat figures in this software is not seen in just like panda. So apparently we know a lot more about what pandas look like than what fat people look like.
Well, I think, again, it's because it's the labeling.
Well,
right?
of course.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying. I'm saying that our notions of fat are distorted.
Right. But what I'm saying is that the way we label our photos is going to impose a greater distortion in this. Because if someone is fat, if you want to post
Whereas
a photo
panda's
of them
panda.
that's pejorative, right? You're going to post something on there that has negative imagery and negative labeling, right? Whereas if like I want to post a picture of myself, like I'm fat, but I'm not going to label the photo fat guy or 400-pound guy, right? You know, so it's not going to be put into the sample that could contribute a more positive image.
No, I think that's fair. Whereas chimpanzee or panda is pretty neutral.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There was I was thinking of this at some point after we had our call. There was a website for a while. I can't remember exactly what it was called, but it was called like the Bodies Project or something. It was a chart with basically like heights and weights, and people could submit their picture. So it's like, what is someone who's, 5'9" and 120 pounds look like?
Oh, interesting.
Or, versus someone who is 4'8" and 120 pounds, or, 6'7" and 120 pounds.
That's interesting.
And it was so interesting to see. I don't think it probably doesn't exist anymore.
But that's a wonderful way to examine the variety of body types, which we're not exposed to because we're usually looking at approved body types or pejorative or stigmatized body types.
Yeah. I mean, part of it is also like, what does fat mean?
Yeah.
I mean, fat encompasses, fat's not enough. It's
Well,
not,
no, as I say, fat is a local event.
yeah. It's,
Fat in one place is not fat in another place.
yeah. Well, as evidenced by our much maligned Hollywood fat, which is just sort of normal everywhere else.
Yeah.
It's so one thing I thought was odd about the way that the program interprets fat bodies is we typed in happy fat man on the beach.
Yes.
That was our first sort of group test. And I would say maybe a third to half of the images had the men sort of rendered in either female bathing suits or even with like cleavage, like a tube top.
A lot of men in bikinis.
Yeah.
Like two-part bikinis. Yeah.
And its ability to distinguish fat man from fat woman seemed really almost non-existent.
I think that's because most images of fatness are women.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, unquestionably. Because that's mostly what anti-fat bias is targeting. And that's mostly where the body positivity movement has started.
So basically, don't if you've been drinking, feel free to check out Dali Mini. But
Yeah.
it's kind of disturbing and weird.
So there's a reason why this is important, right? This isn't just sort of a casual, what the fuck? So as we start moving forward and face recognition technologies become more dominant and more popularly used, we've seen this issue popping up in Black communities already, where I'm paraphrasing the thing that was discovered, but basically like at Google, there's sort of an automatic sort of basket that all these photos get separated into in a lot of ways. And they had a problem with Black faces being put into the basket that was for gorillas and apes and all that stuff, because there wasn't enough face recognition for Black people to be recognized as human because all of the programming teams were white, right?
Well, it's just because the AI recreates the bias of its creators. Yeah.
So that's an issue, A similar issue was like voice recognition elevators in Scotland were rendered completely useless because the voice recognition technology could not recognize a Scottish accent, right? Like it's important to be seen as you actually are as our technology starts accelerating and it starts recognizing you.
Trying to
recognize you, trying to interact with you.
Well, I think what you're pointing to is the inverse of that, which is you're not part of society when AI doesn't recognize you as part of society.
Yes.
Yeah.
I loved this show, Better Off Ted, way back in the day. It was a fantastic show. And they did an episode. It's a high-tech corporation that's just sort of like a megalithic thing that doesn't care about people. So they install a new sort of motion sensor technology that keeps the lights on in the room when you're working. But then the motion sensors can't recognize black people. So the lights keep turning off wherever the black employees are. And so the company decides it's actually cheaper, because it was so expensive to put this in, it's cheaper to hire white temps to follow around the black employees.
Oh my God.
It's taking it to an absurd level, but like this is actually impactful to our lives. It's not just a trivial, oh, that's so funny that like we're going to get nasty pictures of ourselves when we type it in. This is the foundational technology for things that will be affecting our lives and will be interacting with us in the future. It's something that needs to be addressed now, or we are going to be left out.
Well, and it's what alarms people when people talk about, oh, AI is the future and AI can be all can do all these things. It's like, yeah, if you want, a fatphobic racist to be making all these decisions, yes.
All right.
yeah.
We've had a lot of happy on the show for the past couple episodes.
Yeah.
Knock it off.
We're due for some
had to
downer material.
Take your legs out at some point.
I think the way to walk away from this is to just be
Quickly.
conscious of how what you put out online, as more and more just AI stuff is being developed, it's going to pull from what is out there publicly. So just be conscious about what the language you use, because the machines are going to turn it back at you. Yeah, there we
So
go.
true.
Do we have a tip today?
I mean, the tip is you just got it. You just got it in the little musical sting.
The term is don't touch computers. They're going to take over the world.
But I think we probably have a bit.
We do.
Ooh.
So, and I forgot my reading glasses, so you're all going to bear with me.
Yeah.
So, talking about Dolly, it's interesting what these photos, these images that it creates are these hybrids from all across the internet, also known as a chimera,
Oh, true.
right? And so throughout history and mythology and religion, yes, Dungeons and Dragons players, we have a nice juicy fantasy question today. There are all sorts of famous chimera across all sorts of mythologies that just kind of slamming different animal parts together and making new monsters. So I thought maybe we'd go into some of the more famous chimera of history.
Okay.
All right. So I'm going to give you some hints. You're going to be guessing which famous chimerical monster I am talking about, as Dan sits there looking confused and our two D&D players are leaning forward to their All right. Question 1. Was killed by Theseus. Lived in a maze.
Ding, 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 ding.
Oh, Dan comes in first.
The Minotaur.
That is correct.
Can I be a total nerd for a 2nd? He lived in a labyrinth.
What is a labyrinth?
No, there is actually a technical difference between a maze and a labyrinth. And if you're not a very good boy, I'll tell you.
I want to know what's the difference. Be quick about it.
A maze has options for which you can go one
Yeah.
way or another. A labyrinth is actually some sort of concentric or directional well.
I don't remember if this is actually true, but what I'm remembering is that in this particular example, if you always turn left, if you have a turn in front of you, if you always turn left, you make it to the center. Or to the
Well, in
end
the
or whatever.
myth, they use Daedalus has a solution, which is to unravel a
The
skein of yarn.
Yeah. Anyway.
All right. Always near the ocean, but not aquatic.
Okay.
Bird wings.
Ooh, Buzz.
Oh,
Trevor?
Harpy.
yeah.
No.
Oh,
Harpies are not always necessarily near the ocean.
Yeah.
Known for extremely attractive female bodies.
ding. A siren.
Yes, sirens.
Oh.
Sirens are bird-women hybrid chimera that lured sailors to their death. Right. A small creature originating in North America. Though quite small, they are always seen sporting deer's antlers.
Buzz.
Trevor?
Jackalope.
The jackalope.
I knew that was going to be one. That was my first thought when he said this was jackalope. It's been in my head, jackalope.
All right, here we go. Second to last. This is our penultimate. Its name is now used to describe part of the human brain.
Ding, 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 ding.
Dan?
Cerberus.
No.
Oh, I should get credit for that.
Its name has Greek origins, but it was known in Phoenician, Pict, Etruscan, and Roman mythologies. Though often depicted with wings, most mythologies strictly see this as a sea creature. Part horse, part fish.
The seahorse?
That's literally what its name means. The hippocampus.
Oh, the hippocampus.
It was basically a mermaid with a horse top.
I think I should still get credit for Cerberus.
Nerd.
Even though it probably is wrong.
All right.
This is the
Last one. This is the toughest one. Its name is still popular usage as a biological term. Had the tail of a dragon. Had the head of a lion. Had a freaking goat growing out of its back. And final hint, I have used its name
Buzz.
multiple times.
Chimera.
Yes, that is correct.
It is the actual.
It is the actual chimera. So,
Man, this just takes me back. Did anyone play? This answers to this is almost certainly no. Wrath of the Gods, the old Mac OS Greek mythology video game. Nope. Okay.
No, I
Just
read
me.
mythology. But,
Yeah. Well, no, I read it too, but then they also came out with the game back in like 1999
That's
or
great.
whatever, and you got to. It was a point and click adventure, and you're.
but he used like 4K of memory, though.
Yeah. Well. Yeah.
I did watch Clash of the Titans on infinite loop as a
A
child.
titan against a titan!
Release the Kraken!
And that concludes our episode today.
Yeah. Where are you going to release that?
If you'd like to tell us how big nerds we are, Trevor, where can they do that?
Well, we're on Instagram and Twitter as @BigFatGayPod. Support us on Patreon, patreon.com
Yeah.
/BigFatGayPod. We're on Facebook as the Big Fat Gay Podcast. 5 stars there. 5 stars on Apple Podcasts.
We got some new reviews.
Yeah,
thank
oh,
you. We
thank
read
you.
them. We read them all. Thank you very much.
See the articles we talked about at www.bigfatgaypod.com. Maybe you're listening and you're in a labyrinth
Dum dum dum.
and you're laying out your yarn. That's what Dan said to do. And you hear a pan flute
It's Zamfir.
and some pan flute and some clopping. And a familiar face turns the corner. It's Michael. He's a little
Little satyr.
yeah, little satyr, satyr Michael, and he has a message for you.
What, dude?